What do you do when you don't trust your partner after having a baby with them? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, my 30-year-old male girlfriend, 25-year-old female, said she wouldn't have dated me if I was her age. So I was hanging out with my girlfriend and she was looking at my Instagram to see a recent post, and she saw a picture of me from a few years ago when I was 25. She said that she wouldn't have dated me if I was hypothetically her age now because she didn't find me attractive based on those pictures. She described me as looking gaunt. For reference, it was before I had a beard and put on some muscle. She played it off as a funny thing to say, but I found it hurtful and told her as much. She apologized but said she can't help how she feels. She said she was just being honest. We made up in the moment, but I'm starting to feel hurt again upon reflection. I don't know if it's justified to feel this way, but I almost feel she's basically establishing superiority over by saying this. Like, we're not equals because she wouldn't have dated me if we were the same age. She's dealt with some insecurities about her looks herself, so I couldn't imagine saying something like this to her. She's been amazingly supportive in other ways, so this came as a bit of a surprise with how little tact she approached this with. Am I being overly sensitive here? I mean, I can't lie, if I were in OP's position, I'd probably be feeling kind of the same way, but that's just kind of me. That's just my own natural insecurities, and I don't think she actually meant any harm by it. I think she just meant, hey, if she saw you and you were a random stranger wherever she met you, she wouldn't look at you and go, oh yeah, I want to go home with that guy right now. I don't think it means that, like, if you were to get ill and lost a lot of your muscle mass or something, that they would immediately pack up and go, you know what, you're just not good enough for me anymore. I just don't think they actually meant any harm by it. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy tricky relationship topics, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is, my boyfriend, 28-year-old male, told me he wishes I, 26-year-old female, was dead and I can't get over it. We've been together for a year. When my boyfriend gets mad, he tends to be as vicious as possible as an attempt to push people away from him. His words. He's told me a lot of mean things over time, such as I'm useless, I'm unlikable, I'm a tramp, I'm dumb, I've never dealt with consequences, so I deserve to be treated with tough love. He mentally checked out on me and only stays because it's easy, and that the only people who would care about me if I died would be my parents. He claims to not even remember half these things, and that he usually says them when he's trying to show that he's not hurt or vulnerable. I'm not perfect either. When I'm annoyed or upset, I tend to be silent, which is usually what triggers him to get that way. I suffer from depression and anxiety, and recently I've been going through some difficulties at work, and the disorders have become more heightened than usual. We got into an argument the other week, and he told me that I was a miserable human and that I was going to live a long, lonely life. I retaliated and said, with the way my depression is going, I doubt I'll live very long. He then responded and said, do the world a favor then. I was hurt and stopped talking to him for the rest of the day. The following day, he apologized for it, and I decided to move past it and chalk it up to him just trying to be spiteful rather than actually meaning what he said. 3 days ago, we got into another argument. Our physical intimacy has been very minimal over the past few months. He will sometimes talk about being physical but doesn't start anything, and I'm the same. Neither of us really make the move onto the other. So I decided one night to initiate things, and he told me he felt dirty because he hadn't showered yet, and asked if we could continue later. I agreed, and then we ate dinner and played some video games together. He then asked if he could play FIFA with his friends for a bit, so I decided to go shower and make myself more desirable for our later plans. After about 2 hours, he came back and told me he was going to shower and work for the rest of the night. I was extremely disappointed, but didn't want to interfere with his work, so I just went to sleep without mentioning anything. I know, I should have mentioned what I was feeling in the moment. The next day, I was still annoyed that he forgot about our late night plans, so I wasn't really texting him throughout the day like I normally would. Even when I came home, we had another big argument about it, and he once again told me he wished I died. I know he did it because he knew I got upset about the last time. He then told me I'm boring and he and his ex used to be intimate every second day, and that he's dated women that are hotter and smarter and more successful than me. I couldn't take it anymore and asked him to go back to his place. He refused and physically grabbed my phone that I was holding and told me if I didn't try to fix it with him, he was going to wipe my phone's memory and then break it. I didn't know what to do, so I just went back to my room and he decided to leave. He then got into his car with my phone and left. Eventually, he came back and we sort of made up, but then he left again the next day and now we aren't talking after he sent me a text to never message him again because I'm an evil person and he'll just ignore anything I say. Well, I didn't message him and I know he's probably mad at me for ignoring him now, but I keep thinking back to how he told me he wished I was dead. I know I'm wrong for not communicating and being distant, but I still think that wishing death upon a person is extreme. I've never said anything of that caliber to him, and it gets really frustrating that anytime I bring up something that does bother me, he gets mad or sends me laughing emojis, so I tend to be more withdrawn whenever I'm hurt or mad at something he does. Is it wrong that I just can't get over his comment? For the most part, he is very generous and loving in other ways, and made a ton of effort to see me. But I'm wondering if his pushing people away habit is too much to deal with for a lifetime. I don't think it's the pushing people away habit, I think it's the fact that he's a terrible partner. No partner should ever say those things to OP, and I'm worried that OP's just staying in this relationship, honestly, because they'd rather have some kind of relationship where sometimes it's nice rather than nothing at all, even though surely this is dragging OP down way more than they think it is. This next story is, my girlfriend, female 20, is mad at me, male 20, after I told her I don't want her talking sexually to other guys. What to do? We're both in college and have only been dating for 2 weeks. Her friend group is composed of her 2 female suite mates and this other guy on their floor. Let's call him Alex. He doesn't have any other friends, so they invited him to live with them next year too. Let me preface that I like this guy and don't in any way worry about him. The other night, us 3 are at the dining hall and my girlfriend made a sexual comment to him jokingly, along the lines of, "Maybe you'll find out tonight." I forget what the lead up was. She has friend-zoned the dude into oblivion but still acts flirty with him, which never really bothered me enough to confront her about, but when she said this, I shot her a nice 10-second stare to the tune of, "Are you kidding me?" We went our separate ways and I was ticked the rest of the night, dry and distant over text. The following morning, I'm done with being aloof and cold, so I text her and ask her to hash this out, which she agrees to. I meet her in person and tell her she probably knows what's bothering me, and she says she doesn't. I tell her that I didn't like the way she spoke to Alex, and she shot me a look like I was out of my mind. She started to deflect and bring up things she was upset at me for, many of them trivial, like she was grabbing at anything, and told me that me telling her how to talk to her friends was such a deal breaker and goes against her values in a relationship, and insinuated breaking up with me. Frankly, this scared the heck out of me. I've had girlfriends in the past, but never been as into any of them as I have been with her. And in that moment, as I felt my heartbeat faster than it ever has, I let her control me, and ultimately, I was the one that ended up apologizing. After an hour of reflection, I realized that she completely took my power away, and I shot her a text outlining the fact that a personal, very general boundary of mine is that my girlfriend doesn't make sexual comments to another straight guy in front of me. And I can't be in a relationship with her either if she can't agree to such a small thing. I compromised by telling her that she can say whatever she wants to him when I'm not there, but I really just don't want to be there to hear it. Again, I'm not a jealous person and confident in my own shoes, and Alex is not the kind of guy to worry about, but it's a personal rule of mine that I feel most people can get behind. But not her. She refused to see reason and asserted again that me telling her how she talks to her friends is a huge deal breaker and goes against her values. I tried to tell her that it's not me telling her how to talk to her friends, which would be very unfair of me after only knowing her for a month versus the amount of time she's known them. I simply don't want to hear her saying suggestive things to another straight guy in front of me, regardless of context. She just does not see where I'm coming from in any shape or form. We haven't talked in dang near 36 hours and are at a stalemate. I don't see her apologizing anytime soon, and if I were to give in myself, I would lose self-respect, which is something much bigger than me and her. I really don't want to break up with her, but just don't see where to go from her. So the problem here is OP's been dating her for 2 weeks. Either she apologizes and respects OP's boundaries, or this is a situation where you go, listen, I've been dating you 2 weeks. I understand you're trying to assert that you should be able to insinuate sex with your friends in front of me, your partner, so this just isn't gonna work out. It's really a shame when you're so into somebody, but really, considering this, are you that into them now? Our next story is, I, 27-year-old female, booked a solo trip to Japan to reflect on things after my long-term boyfriend, 28-year-old male, expressed that he doesn't foresee marriage within the next 5 years. Background, we'll be making 9 years this May. About 10 days ago, my boyfriend and I were playing a couple card game. One of the questions was, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And you're supposed to give 3 answers. I went first and said, married with kids and a homeowner. Then he answered with kids in a house. That's it. I was flabbergasted with the response. I know this man loves me unconditionally. I thought he would want to marry me since he makes me feel so loved, valued, and respected. He supported me and provided for me all throughout nursing school. He even crossed oceans so we can finally live together. He has been very affectionate and hardworking. Even my family and friends loves him for me. So yeah, I was flabbergasted with the response that I didn't know how to react. I started tearing up in bed that night, so I told him I forgot to take my allergy medications. Those tears turned into audible soft sobbing that went on for more than 15 minutes. I know he knew I was crying and not just an allergic reaction, but all he said was, don't forget to take your allergy medications next time. Since not wanting marriage is a serious deal breaker for me, I started seriously considering ways to end the relationship. I found myself thinking about preparing to be alone and single. I thought of moving out of the apartment when our lease ends, etc. I gave him the cold treatment the next 2 days. He didn't ask me what was wrong, but he was still very lovey-dovey in his normal self despite me giving him the cold shoulder. On the 3rd day, I told him I booked a solo trip to Japan. I wanted to do this solo trip to give myself time to think alone and also to prove to myself that I can be independent when that time comes. When he asked me why, I vaguely told him, I'm preparing myself to be alone. He never talked to me after that. That was exactly a week ago. It's been 1 week of him giving me the silent treatment. We do not talk at all. He sleeps and eats in the living room while I sleep and eat in the bedroom. I don't drive, so he picks me up at work. Last night, I had a crazy shift, so I cried in the car on the way home, but he just ignored it. I could also hear his sniffles last night, so I knew he was crying too. It's tormenting me that we live in the same house and yet we don't talk. A week of silence made me realize I love him and am open to giving our relationship another chance until our 8th year. I know we are both hurt. I really want to discuss things with him. I don't think I'll change my mind about the trip. Should I make the first move? Or should I wait for him to approach me first? I mean, was that like the first time in 8 or 9 years that you brought up marriage? Like, you guys had been together for that long and you didn't have an idea of each other's views on marriage? And also, after all that time together, you guys can't even communicate. I think for the love of God, OP should either try to open the communication doors and figure this out, or just silently let it go then. I think it's crazy that after 8 or 9 years, you had an experience where you're like, oh wait, we didn't talk about our future together. Our next story is, I, 34-year-old female, didn't meet up with partner, 43-year-old male, on vacation, and now he wants to break up over it. Background, me, 34-year-old female, him, 43-year-old male. We've had a bit of a whirlwind romance. Met at a conference and he moved over 100 miles to my city to be near me a few months ago so we could spend time together. He has no kids and is not currently working, lives off inheritance. I have one son aged 7. He is pretty intense, wants to talk and see each other every day, talks about the future, moving in, marriage, babies, etc. And I do believe he genuinely loves me and I love him, although our 8-month relationship has had its ups and downs mainly over one, communication. He wants to be able to call me whenever, and I am quite busy a lot and don't enjoy talking on the phone so much and am more of a texter. He says I'm unreliable though, as I spent a lot of time on the phone with him. He doesn't use WhatsApp or text as he hates it, though I prefer these. And 2, the fact I haven't introduced him to my son, as we've had some arguments over communication and because he gets insecure and has broken up with me once and threatened breakups at other times. And also my son was quite affected by my split with his dad, so I wanted to take that part of things slow. I probably spend every weekday with my boyfriend though, as I work from home and he comes over. We have had overnights, etc. I thought we were doing okay, to be honest. I had the chance to go on a 5-day vacation here in the US with my mother who lives overseas. This is something I've done with my mother and son since he was a baby. Boyfriend had booked to go see a friend in another state the same week. But the day after I arrived to meet my mom, boyfriend called saying he was coming with his friend to where we were and he'd like to meet up. I felt bad about taking time away from my mom and we had some plans, but I didn't say no. I said I'd think about it. Over the next couple of days, boyfriend unraveled a bit because I was only texting, not calling him, and I didn't think meeting up would work out. He ended up getting very upset and ghosting me for 2 days. Since then, he said he's now not sure about our relationship and wants space. Despite knowing since early on that I've been away with my mom and son maybe every 1 to 2 years, he's now saying he would feel excluded if his partner ever went on vacation without him. And he doesn't want someone who prizes independence so much. When I said he previously said my independence was something he really liked about me, he said he just said what I wanted to hear. He also wouldn't be okay if I wanted to do something with my son without him in the future. He also wants someone who he can call any time of the day or night and they will answer. Even though I have a job with a lot of meetings and a kid I have main custody of. I felt like I'd done something terrible by not saying yes to meeting up on my vacation or by only calling 2 days out of 4. Last time I went on a trip with my mom at Christmas, he showed up spontaneously to take me away for a night, and I left my son with her and felt guilty about missing that time with them both. I guess I didn't want to repeat that. He's now threatening to break up and says he doesn't know how he feels and may leave me or our city. I am so upset and feeling guilty. I previously thought it was normal to sometimes see family separately. I wasn't trying to exclude or reject him. I just wanted that time with my mom and son. He swears he's not controlling, but I thought it was okay to do stuff apart at times and to communicate in a way that works for both of you. Who's in the wrong here? Any opinions gratefully received, as I am so exhausted from apologizing and begging the last few days. He's acting like he could care less when just over a week ago, he called me the love of his life. So personally, I think this 43-year-old is acting like a 14-year-old in their first relationship. You should have some level of independence. You should be able to go on a vacation with your family and not have it be the end of your relationship. This guy is trying to be so controlling and be glued to their side and obey their every whim and desire. Unless you want to play yes woman to this guy for the rest of your life, this guy is giving you a clear out right there, and probably you should take it. Our next story is, I, 21-year-old female, found something in my boyfriend's 22-year-old male phone that disgusts me, and I don't know if I should give him another chance. I'm going to keep this short. I, 21-year-old female, found out yesterday that my boyfriend, 21-year-old male, saves photos of AI-generated adult entertainment images of K-pop idols. He didn't create them. I just felt disgusted after seeing them because they're not adult stars and they shouldn't have their bodies altered like that when they weren't even showing their bodies. To me, it's just non-consensual adult imagery. He also found them by searching, meaning he searched them up knowing that he wants to see that of K-pop idols, who are not adult stars. Personally, I don't like adult imagery, but I don't have problems with it. But in my opinion, this just disgusted me so much. I don't know if this is normal with other people, but I definitely do not feel comfortable with this, and I'm rethinking if I should be in this relationship if this is who my boyfriend is. I'm really disappointed in him because he's been really good to me and I thought everything was going well. We've been dating for over a year. I told him how this could be a deal breaker, and he told me he can change, and that he'll never do things like this again and is disgusted with himself. Part of me wants to believe he's not some disgusting creep person, but also he thought it was fine before he got caught and had those desires in the first place. I think the first thing that's very telling about this relationship is you were at the point where you wanted to look through their phone to begin with, right? Secondly, this is something that just kind of goes against your total values. I guess it comes down to whether or not you believe that they are honest with their I can change, it disgusts me now that I realize it. Maybe, oh, he was acting out of just desires without really thinking rationally. Bottom line, if him looking at that stuff is a deal breaker for you, it's definitely important not to just try to ignore it. I'm not saying it should be just relationship ending, but at the same time, it's important to not ignore these things that do bother you and are deal breakers just to make sure that you can stay in a relationship. Our next story is, I, 30-year-old female, do not trust my 32-year-old male husband after having a baby. I cannot trust my husband after having a baby. My husband completely withdrew from our baby and I right after I gave birth. I did everything myself. I had horrible PPA/PPD because I was burnt out and felt completely alone and rejected. I threatened divorce and to file for full custody of our child. I had receipts to prove I paid for everything and texts from him that proved he was being neglectful. I had every right not to trust him with our child. He didn't go to therapy, but he agreed he probably had PPD and would work on adjusting to his new life as a father. It's been a little over a year and he has improved drastically as far as being a father. I trust him with our child now completely. Now that he's resolved his issues with parenting, we are wanting to improve our relationship. I guess while I was recovering from PPA/PPD myself, it pushed me far, far, far away from him. I didn't trust him to take care of me or comfort me, nor do I want to go to him for any emotional support. We've turned into roommates and prefer to spend time apart. This has been bothering him, not me so much, and he wants to work on intimacy and rekindling our relationship. I agree to try and work on our relationship, but I found I'm just not interested in him anymore. I don't want to put in any effort into our marriage. This frustrates him, and in return makes him want to work even less. What concerns me is I just don't care. The biggest thing for me in a relationship is emotional security, and I don't have that with him. I don't want to allow myself to open up to him again out of fear he'll hurt and abandon me again. We're now at a stalemate. We've talked about this issue a few times and it ends in a heated argument and very little has changed. Every time I try to talk to him about PPA or PPD and how it almost took my life, I feel like he brushes it under the rug. I feel like he doesn't see how seriously ill I was during that time. He definitely doesn't see how he contributed to that pain. This also hurts me because I think I'll only have one child. That is not what I wanted, but I don't think I could ever have another baby with him. This also contributes to me not wanting to put in any effort. I just got in with a therapist and my first appointment is coming soon. Since we've opened this Pandora's box, I have been emotionally unwell. I obviously haven't addressed my issues fully, but I am looking forward to therapy. I can't wait to have a place to get this all out and feel heard. Has anyone else gone through this and how did you get through this? Should I let down my guard and trust him again? Or should he be the one actively working to regain my trust? Or should I cut him slack because we were both going through the trenches and he just couldn't handle it? So I think the real issue here is it doesn't seem like he acknowledges that there were issues, that you were struggling. When you were going through some very real stuff, and even after all of that and you feel like, okay, maybe we can work on this, and you still just feel unheard over everything that had gone on, how can you move forward when you feel like there really hasn't been any progress since before all that stuff that just happened? Our next story is my 21-year-old female, long-distance relationship boyfriend, 22-year-old male, pressures me to pay for everything in our relationship and I'm so overwhelmed. Please help me. Hello, I'm a 21-year-old woman in college who is a bit more behind in life than others due to autism and Asperger's. I feel a lot of alienation from others and try to make up for it by doing nice things for people. Because of this, I can easily be taken advantage of and be too nice and feel immense guilt for not doing everything I can for others. This makes me vulnerable to abuse. My boyfriend is 22. My mother passed away last year and I received an inheritance. I am an orphan with no family support or guidance on how to manage finances. Because of this, my boyfriend expects me to pay for everything in our relationship. I don't have a job, neither does he. I just have my inheritance, which is helping me get through college. I feel blessed that my inheritance has finally given me the chance to get an education and prove to everyone that I am capable, even though I have a disability. I'm so motivated and I love school. However, he wants me to use a lot of this money on him instead, even though it doesn't seem smart when I have to pay for school and rent. I want to get a job because having a stream of income instead of just sitting on my inheritance would make me feel more secure and taken care of. My boyfriend forbids me from getting a job, saying I am too autistic to handle it and would hate it. He also says the uniforms in most places are more revealing than he's comfortable with me wearing. Even wearing just skinny jeans and a t-shirt. He expects me to wear long skirts to hide my body because he doesn't want me showing my body to others. But I really want a job. The issue is, with the amount of money I have, it's possible. But it just doesn't seem smart to me because I think saving money is more important for someone like me with mental issues who could be prone to less job stability. Plus, I am very young and don't know how to handle money or savings, so I want to play it safe. But he wants me to spend thousands of dollars funding trips across the world with him, paying for food and gifts. We've been dating for 6 months and he wants me to spend $10,000 on a trip with him, including paying for his ticket and all of his amenities. He feels hurt that I cannot do all of this because it's possible, but like I said, it just doesn't seem smart. I feel so guilty and like I'm slighting him. I really need guidance to know if it's okay for me to say no, or if I really am doing something wrong here. Please be honest with me. Thank you. So I think OP is absolutely trying to do the right things. Saving that money in general is very important, especially if you are more prone to job instability. Having another job to keep income coming in, even though you're living off of the inheritance, is important. And this guy is a total jerk, trying to be controlling, saying what, even if you work at like Burger King, that's too revealing? A polo shirt and jeans or khakis? What in the Amish life is this? Come on, Marianne, you can't show ankle around here. This next story is, I, female 28, feel dragged down in this relationship to male 38. If you were engaged to someone, or in a relationship with someone who was a complete homebody and didn't like going out shopping, doing fun things, had no motivation to exercise when you're really into fitness, doesn't like dressing up and going out for a meal, and when they do come out, they act awkward and it just feels like they want to go home, they have no enthusiasm, and they admitted that they prefer to just stay at home and said, well, if you want to do things, I'll do it for you. Like, being with someone like this really drags me down. Would you end the engagement or relationship over this? They definitely don't have depression. They just want to work and sleep and watch TV. He doesn't plan anything, no dates, nothing. Sex is never spontaneous. It's always regimented exactly the same 15 minutes before sleeping, and only in the bed and never anywhere else because he doesn't want to spread germs anywhere. I've stopped exercising and dressing nicely because I feel like he just drags me down to his level and makes me feel ashamed when I do get dressed up nicely. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with being the kind of person that is a homebody, but you're obviously, if you're in a relationship with somebody like that, only going to click and do well if you're also that kind of person. I think this is just clear. OP and their partner don't click at all. I mean, my question would be, what was the redeeming stuff that made this relationship work? Like, how did you get into this relationship? They're both so different. Our next story is, I'm female 24, in a battle of office politics with supervisor, female 53, who treats me like a PA and made me cry at work. What should I do? My supervisor is known for being difficult. I've had multiple people from various departments complain to me about her. She's the manager of the workspace, i.e., managing offices, desks, and meeting rooms. I was hired to help take the workload off her. I'm also a receptionist and do reports for a few hours per week for the site leader. We've shared an email inbox for the workspace requests. I answer and action 80% of the emails. It's gotten to the point that most of the emails are addressed to me directly, even though she's the actual manager of it and been there 7 years versus my 6 months. My boyfriend now works in a different department, and his boss joked that she and the other higher-ups go to me directly now because I'm nice. I suspected this, but this confirmed it for me. She keeps giving me tasks that seem utterly pointless and will change her original instructions. She wanted me to survey all 6 of the site buildings to make sure the map is up to date. I noted things like cabinets or tables that moved, but apparently I was to count how many chairs are in each room of 50 offices and 70 meeting rooms, so the map reflects this. Then today she snapped at me for not including fire hydrants and garbage cans, etc. I can't predict her. She also wants me to ensure each room has the right number of chairs, and it's driving the maintenance guys crazy. Chairs move. People take them from room to room all the time. Even when I fix things, I check a week later and the chairs will be wrong again, as life happens. Everything I do is wrong, and she's never happy. She tries to get me involved in her little office fight, and I've started my emails work Emma has asked me to / Emma has instructed me to, so I get less flack. She's really angry that the side lead wants me to work at least 1 day a week under him and 2 other directors. He likes me. She is doing everything she can to say I'm too busy to do extra work, when this would be great for my career. I wouldn't have so much work to do if she didn't make up nonsense and find mistakes in everything I do so nothing is ever finished. Today during the MAP survey, she said she's sick of me doing things wrong, and if I'm not fit for this job, I should just say it. I started crying a lot and played it off as being about my personal life. Not entirely untrue. My grandma is gonna die very soon and my depression has come back these last few months, but her constant criticism was the reason I cried. She apologized for being too harsh, but I'm sick of it. We have the same manager and my boyfriend thinks I should tell him everything. I've asked the manager for a meeting under the guise of discussing my role and issues I've been facing in it. I'm thinking of just asking for clarity as to what I should actually be doing as opposed to snitching. What should I do? Honestly, it sounds like OP is getting bullied in the workplace, even if it's not like outright insults, and I think it's worth genuinely bringing up to the manager or even if there's like an HR especially. Don't be afraid to speak up about a hostile coworker if you have a system to report that to. Somebody in the comments left a great way to kind of approach it so it doesn't feel like you're being so accusing or opposing, and that is when you approach a higher up you say, here's the issue, here's how I've tried handling it so far. How would you like me to handle it moving forward, or how would you have handled it? But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another crazy relationship topic, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.